Fantastic. Beautiful story there by Anita Abada. She is an award-winning Nigerian filmmaker who's passionate about telling globally appealing African stories. She has won numerous of awards. In 2018, she won the award for Best Screenplay at Script to Screen Africa reality TV show for a political thriller, The Catalyst, and the Special Prize Award winner for Health Educational Film for Youth at the 2021 WHO Health for All Film Festival. She has, she keeps, telling stories, through film, and it's such an honor to finally meet with you.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here too.
Yeah, so talk to us. How's the journey been for you? Since 2018, you've been passionate about telling, African stories. Talk to us about how the journey has been for you.
So I think it's been an interesting one, but also quite challenging because we know what the Nigerian film industry terrain is like.
Right.
And I love to tell social impact stories per se. And I've gone from being just a screenwriter to actually running my own production studio, One Flick Media, and having to produce films for streaming platforms.
Okay.
And so it's been interesting, but also quite challenging.
Okay, so talk to us about some of the challenges that you've experienced shooting some of these stories. So for example, stories that border on social issues like female genital mutilation. That's a very, very sensitive issue. It is still being practiced, sadly, in a few states, villages in Nigeria. So talk to us about some of the challenges, and have you received any sort of backlash for telling those sort of stories?
Interestingly, I've not really received any backlash.
Right.
Yeah, but of course, when you go into certain communities to actually talk about certain kind of topics,
right,
they are not really receptive because these are things they don't want out there. They want to protect the communities. Yeah, but then I think most of the challenges I've faced has really been going into these communities to pick the stories, to actually get the setting I need for the stories. For example, when I shot my film on child trafficking, I had to film in like Lagos, Oshodi, all those kind of places, and you have people who are basically trying to sabotage your project. So I think it's mostly been on logistics and, of course, like every young filmmaker, getting actual funding for projects.
Talk to us about, the child trafficking story, because in the past, my organization has done something on human trafficking, and the responses were not exactly encouraging, I'd say. Why? Because some of the human angle stories which we took from, it turns out that after, telling their story, they wanted to go back. So have you had similar instances, while telling some of your stories, especially with child trafficking?
Well, so for my approach here, it's basically bringing the stories to the fore, then leaving organizations like yours to actually pick it up and create a solution. So I don't really see myself as the person who actually brings the solution on ground. I tell you, this is what the problem is. This is how we can solve it. Then work with organizations that actually have the capacity to solve this problem.
All right, so let's talk about some of the awards that you have, amassed from your, project. You have the EU and UNFP award. You have gotten one from the WHO Health award as well. So talk to us about, how you were able to get those awards. Were there submissions made? Were you just, selected? And talk to us about the process for
so I think I would say I've had a lot of festival success when it comes to film projects here. So I use Film Freeway a lot, and I look out for festivals I can actually put my film into. And I know that for the kind of stories I tell, it's beyond just taking it to the cinema. There are certain festivals that actually love those kind of stories. So I basically look out for those festivals, and that's how I got the EU, WHO, UNFP award. And of course, I used my network to reach out to these organizations, tell them what I'm doing and film, what kind of topics I love to talk about, and they're always very willing to collaborate. Let's see what we can do together.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Is there any remuneration to this?
Of course, sometimes it comes with good remuneration.
Good. Emphasis on good. Absolutely love that. And then so then the monies that you get from this award, you invest them in your next project, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. For I think when I got from the WHO award and Cultures of Resistance, I actually used it to host a screening in Osun State to talk about the project here. So I went to Osun State with my crew members to screen the project with these communities, because for me it was beyond just making the film. I made the film to actually evoke change. So I went to these communities where these things were being practiced to actually screen the films to them. So most of the resources went into that. Then other films that I had to shoot.
Let's talk about evoking change, because as much as we talk about wanting change, it's amazing, it's amazing to know that when we are faced with the idea of that change, we're not ready to put in the action to enforce that change. So evoking those changes, especially in communities that are so embedded in their tradition, in their culture, that's been there for so many years, has your movie or your movies made any real impact in evoking those changes that you really want, especially in those communities that that are deep-rooted in their culture and tradition?
Yeah, I would say yes. And I think change is not something that happens overnight. Right. It's something that happens like over time.
Right.
And I don't think one person can actually evoke change. So it's like a chain. I'm a filmmaker, I tell the story, an organization picks up the story and says, okay, we have to do something about it. Right. Just like what I did with the female genital mutilation story. I told the story, Cultures of Resistance came on board, UNFPA came on board, and FGM came up, and I said, okay, you know what, let's go to these communities and screen the story, because that is what they actually work on. So it's like a collaborative effort. And when I did it in Osun State, even the Bali actually reached out to us, and it was like, this was very, very timely, because they basically just stopped female genital mutilation. Right. So it kind of reiterated what they were trying to effect in the community and why it's necessary to stop such practice.
Now let's talk about casting for your actors that you use in evoking this change. What's the process for casting your actors?
So I think generally people believe that you have to use popular faces when you want to shoot, but I do not believe in that. Okay. Yeah, I know popular faces actually help you sell your project, the movies, right. But I believe in giving young actors opportunities a lot. And every project I've done, I always give room for auditions, get new talent. And interestingly, most of the new talent I use actually end up maybe getting an award or actually being recognized for what they've done. Yeah, so for me, it's beyond just, I want to cast. It's about what impact is my casting making. I could maybe use a popular face just for that visibility. Right. Maybe one person for a major role, then give opportunities to other people to actually be part of the project.
Right. Fantastic. Now let's talk about your next project.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, the next step is actually international collaborations, because I think the Nigerian film industry needs a lot of international partnership, to get to a certain level of not just quality of film, but the kind of project we actually put out there. So I'm looking to partner with a lot of other countries, and currently I'm talking to a German-based production company to partner on my next project, because I'll be partly shooting in Nigeria and shooting in Germany.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. That's great.
So I'm basically looking at such kind of partnership. It's not just going to be a German-based partnership. For my subsequent projects too, I want to go into other territories and see how we can actually bridge the gap between the Nigerian film industry and these industries, and how we can bring their own technical skills into the country. Some people would say that
talking about, highlighting some of these social issues that, we're facing, and, putting it on a global platform is sort of putting us in a bad light. I'm sure you've gotten,
of course, definitely.
You've gotten those, you've gotten this, those sort of comments, or people, talking back and say, oh no, you shouldn't do this, oh no, you shouldn't do that. Don't you think you should sort of temper down on, how much of this issue you're projecting to the world? What do you say in those sort of instances?
Personally, I think every storyteller they have their own niche. Yeah, right. There are people who actually tell feel-good stories. And there are people whose niche is just talking about things that happen in the society. As much as we want to look at it, you can't erase the fact that these things happen around us. Right. And if you don't talk about them, nothing is going to be done about it. So somebody has to talk about it. Right. So if your niche is actually telling feel-good stories, please go ahead, talk about Ikoyi, Lekki, everything. I want to see all the beautiful part of Africa, Nigeria, you understand? Right. But if my niche is actually talking about issues in the society, then I'm allowed to actually express myself that way. Yeah, so I don't think it's even for global recognition per se. It's about the kind of story I want to tell. Whether it's recognized by the WHO or not, it doesn't concern me. I just want to tell a story that actually talks to me first, before any other person.
Let's talk about conceptualization for, some of your stories.
Okay.
From the conceptualization to, planning to execution. What's the process like? How long does it take? How do you get the resources, the fundings? And, how are you also able to bridge that gap? Because, I mean, your end goal, the end goal for you basically is, making that change, is social impact. So talk to us about what that process is like for you.
Sometimes it's longer than expected.
Right.
When I made my very first feature film, my very first big budget feature film, Bani, it took me, I think, about 5 years.
5 years?
Yep. I got the story
and
idea.
You never for once got the idea of giving up? Like
nah,
you never
I don't give up.
Giving
That's
up.
one thing about me. I don't
fantastic.
give up. So it took like 5 years because I had to come up with a story, secure funding for it. I think I did about 7 drafts of that script before I finally shot, and I was like, okay, I'm satisfied with what I have.
Okay.
But for other times, it actually takes shorter. When I did my short film on female genital mutilation, it was a 0 budget film.
Ooh.
Yes, I just had to say, you know what, guys, I have a story idea. It's very simple. Let's come together and put resources on this here.
Right.
But for this one, I'm currently working on my next project. It's also taking maybe as long as
5 years?
No, it's not going to take 5 years. It's not going to take 5 years because I actually want to put some things in motion before going ahead to shoot. For me, it's beyond just making the film. How do I ensure that this film gets distributed? Because then you make a film and you're looking for distribution platforms. Don't really have Nigerian distribution platforms that pay really well. Everybody's thinking of Netflix, Amazon. So what other platforms can we leverage? These are the things I'm trying to dig into first before going ahead to make my next film.
Oh, Anita, this has been quite an insightful conversation, and I'll say well done.
Thank you.
And congratulations on all the awards. I can imagine the "Mommy, I made it" moment for you.
Unfortunately, she's not here anymore. So.
Oh. Yeah. But we celebrate with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming to share your story with us. Wishing you all the best. Anywhere that we can support, please let us know, because we're all about social impact, making social impact, and evoking that change in the world, basically.
Thank you so much.
You're
really
welcome.
honored to be here.
All right.
All right, thank you.
And we'll take a quick break now. We have Stanley Obi joining us in a bit, and of course, the Prof brand are still here with us. The show continues. Stay with us.